Well, with that, I will call the first meeting of the Corcoran City Council to order. Oh, can you help me? Thank you, buddy. Alrighty, and we'll start with a roll call. McKee here. Lanterman
Here.
Varenkamp
Here.
Nichols.
Here.
Would like to stand and join me in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty, agenda approval. Looks like we have a couple items, couple revisions, one thing removed and one thing added, Jay?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. We have 4 changes. Item 6C has been revised. Item 6R was removed. Item 6U was added. And number 7A has been revised. No
Perfect.
other changes from staff.
Anything else from council? And I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second, Varenkamp.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. And then, with that, we will go on to, we have a few presentations today, 5 of them, including 3 oaths of office. So we will get started.
Yes,
with
Mr. Mayor, if we could ask you to step forward first to take your oath of office.
Please raise your right hand and then repeat after me. I, Tom McKee,
I, Tom McKee,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to support the Constitution of the United States,
to support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and to discharge faithfully,
and to discharge faithfully,
justly, and impartially
justly and impartially,
the duties of the office of mayor
the duties of the office of mayor
for the city of Corcoran, Minnesota,
for the city of Corcoran, Minnesota,
and to do so with my best judgment and ability,
and to do so with my best judgment and ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Would you like to get a quick picture with your family, Mr. Mayor, before we transition to the
Up to
next?
the family if they want to be in one.
This is the one who's going to object. I might have to.
Hand in front of someone. Oh, thank you so much.
Next, could we get Councilmember Varenkamp to come forward, please?
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Dean Varenkamp,
I, Dean Varenkamp,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to support the Constitution of the United States,
to support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and to discharge faithfully,
and to discharge faithfully,
justly, and impartially
justly, and impartially
the duties of the office of council member
the duties of the office of council member
for the city of Corcoran, Minnesota,
for the city of Corcoran, Minnesota,
and to do so with my best judgment and ability,
and to do so with my best judgment and ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Would you like to get a...
Rude's got to be in the picture.
When I make pictures, that was it.
Look at the camera now, please.
Councilmember Friedrich?
raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Michelle Krieger,
I, Michelle Friedrich,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to support the Constitution of the United States,
to support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and to discharge faithfully,
and to discharge faithfully,
justly and impartially,
justly, and impartially
the duties of the office of council member
the duties of the office of council member
for the city of Corcoran, Minnesota,
for the city of Corcoran, Minnesota,
and to do so with my best judgment and ability,
and to do so with my best judgment and ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Welcome, Michelle. And yeah, come on up.
Yeah,
We'll have Michelle come on up and take her
she's gonna
seat
get a
on
picture with her.
Oh, yeah, after that. Of course, the picture.
Is this the crazy side or the sane side, Michelle?
That's a little bit of both.
All right. Welcome, you guys.
Thank you.
No pressure, you're all in the background. So cute.
Next, Mr. Mayor, if we could get you to step forward and get our chief, Matt Gottschalk, to please step forward. We have a longevity award, 10 years of service to the city of Corcoran. Matt's first day with the Corcoran Police Department was December 1st, 2014. At that time, there were 7 full-time police officers. We have now grown to 12 full-time police officers. Matt most recently served as the president of the Minnesota Chiefs of Police, and he served as the president of the Hennepin County Chiefs. He serves on the state's legislative committee. He has worked to add recruitment and retention policy for our officers, a rebrand of our police department patch, badge, and our squad design, which is the standard in the state. Managed our city hall remodel a few years ago, added the K-9 team, an investigator, the community service officer, and served as the interim city administrator prior to my arrival.
We kind of do this for every anniversary, employment anniversary or something like that. So 2014, the highest grossing movie was Transformers: Age of Extinction. You know, I'm sure that was at the top of your list. Guardians of the Galaxy was also released, on the way to earning $772.7 million at the box office. Top album of the year was 1989 by Taylor Swift. The most popular app was Flappy Bird, which erupted and then fizzled out real quick. The Winter Olympics were held in Sochi, and the Ice Bucket Challenge was going viral on the internet. So that's when you started.
Matt, do you want to get a picture of your family?
Oh, she's.
Alrighty.
We want to dismiss them if they want, if they
Yeah,
so
so
choose.
that is it for the oaths of office. If you're here for just that, if you want to stay, you're more than welcome to. We'd love to have you. If not, no worries. We'll give you some time to leave if you want. It's totally up to you guys.
Thank you all for coming.
Appreciate you coming out.
Absolutely.
And then, once that's all set, we will go to 4E, which is the comp and class study presentation.
What the heck? Why is it not working? Thank you. Take it out in a second. So, slight technical difficulty, just a moment. I don't know why it's not working. We'll try one more time. Yes, something's wrong with the connection. Okay, let me try it a different way.
Mr. Mayor? Do we have to behave now?
I mean,
Well, poor John was here,
oh, I
didn't really
mean,
care or anything, now we've got Michelle here, so.
I trust you, it's your own discretion.
We, okay, thank you. Art,
Michelle will keep you in line
that was
over there.
maybe, that was mostly for you, so, just saying.
That's the BenQ.
You asked me to ask, so I did.
Okay,
Trying now with the
I'm lost,
BenQ.
but, okay, yeah, I follow.
There it is.
Yeah, so let's try it this way. For whatever reason, it's not letting me present the slide. The BenQ is not cooperating.
Okay,
This is a new
As
problem.
soon as we enter into
Yeah.
full view.
So
can we
this-
do it in the, like,
Yeah, so
window view?
we can do it in the normal view.
That's good enough.
So we're gonna do it that. I apologize.
No worries.
This is a surprise to us.
You could try to make the left pane smaller to get more of the slide on the screen. There you go.
There.
There you go. Perfect. Go right ahead.
All right, well, Mayor and Council, thank you for having the agenda tonight. I'm excited to hear it. I'm excited to present our findings and recommendations for the compensation classification study. As you likely know, we've been working with the City of Corcoran for the past several months, and we've been really partnering with city leadership to make sure that this is something that the city feels confident in, so we're really excited tonight. If we could go to the next slide, I'll quickly go over my agenda with you. We're going to start with the project overview. I was here a few months ago to kind of introduce the project. We always like to do that at the kickoff, but we're going to kind of recap what that project looked like, what was the scope of work that we went through with the city. We're also going to review some of the goals and underlying assumptions that we had heard from you all at the council level and then from the city when we met for our early kickoff meetings that kind of drove the direction that we wanted to take with this study. And of course, I'm going to be reviewing some of the analysis and methodology that was used to conduct the study. I will note that on the slide deck that we're going to go through, it is fairly high level, but there is more detail in the reports that are in your council packet. And even more detail will be provided to city leadership as they look to make any changes should you choose to adopt this plan. We are going to be reviewing the compensation plan, and then I do have the slide at the very end for questions, but I'll try to pause along the way too, but jump in if you hear something that doesn't land well or you just need some clarification.
Sounds
or
good.
tell me to slow down, honestly.
Sounds good.
So like I said, we wanted to start by just going over what the project entailed from start to finish. Whenever we have a compensation classification study, job descriptions are a critical component of those. Having accurate and reliable descriptions are needed to conduct market analysis, and they also help the city with things like ADA and FLSA compliance going forward. So that was a part of the study where we involved city, not only leadership, but individual employees were involved in filling out job analysis questionnaires to make sure we heard from those who were in the roles, what are they doing so that we can craft accurate job descriptions that can be used into the future. From there, we're also looking at a position classification analysis. So that's, we use that term and position scoring kind of interchangeably. That's where we're going through our scoring methodology to assign a point value based on the job description that we just created. When we do that, we're looking at things like scope of work, decision-making authority, financial impact of those decision-making, the decision makers that they have. We also look at things like reporting structure. Those are the things that are going into a position classification or a score. Then, of course, we're going through a market analysis, and we'll get into the details on this in a little bit, but essentially we found some good market data compared to your current compensation structure to that market, and then made some recommendations from that. Whenever we're designing a plan, we always want it to be in compliance with pay equity. As you know, every 3 years, every city in the state of Minnesota has to report into the state of Minnesota pay equity system. You most recently did that. Actually, in this past year, we supported the city of Corcoran in the first quarter of this year to help with the 2023 reporting to get you in compliance. And we did test this proposed plan that is also found to be in compliance. I'll touch on that again in a little bit. And the last stage is, of course, where we're at right now, where we're presenting our recommendations to the city. And then if you do choose to move forward, we'll be supporting the city with any implementation that goes along with that. So our team, my name is Michael. I'm a manager here at Appville. We have an HR advisory team, and up on the screen there, Leah Davis. She's the partner at the firm and leader of our advisory practice. Her and I are the only two on the team that are doing compensation work. This is kind of about 90% of the time that I spend at Appville is doing public sector compensation. So I was the leader of this project, and then Leah was kind of in the behind the scenes helping with review. We always want to make sure we have a second set of eyes on the market data and things like that. Okay, so I know there's a lot on this slide, but really what I wanted to touch on here as we go into some of the goals and underlying assumptions that we took on at the start of this project. there was an overarching theme of, we heard from you and city leadership and staff that retention and recruiting were a focus. We wanted to make sure we're designing a plan that fosters competitive recruiting, and once you have an employee start with you, that they want to stay here. Now, obviously, compensation is not the only piece to that puzzle, but it's an important one. So we want to make sure that the plans that we're designing are fostering a competitive pay plan so that you're able to recruit effectively, and that compensation shouldn't be a deterrent or a barrier for you to recruit and retain staff. We saw this when we went to market too, that the city has historically aimed to be competitive with the market, so we didn't anticipate, based on feedback that we had early on, that you would find yourself significantly behind market, and we'll get into the details of that going forward. So we wanted to maintain that competitive market position as we look forward to designing your new plan. The last long bullet point there is just calling out the importance that for you to know that any union represented position was included in the market study, but any changes to their wages are going to be negotiated separately. So we include them in the classification in terms of giving those positions a score, and then we collected market data. But those, that is a collectively bargained agree item that would be in the CBA. So I just wanted to call that out quickly. Okay, so for our methodology, we are utilizing the 2024 League of Minnesota salary surveys. All of the comparable cities that you had selected that you wanted to be included did respond to that, so that was our primary source of data. When we go out to the League of Minnesota Cities survey, we are provided with a range minimum and a range maximum for each position. And then we go in and compare the existing minimum or start step and to the max step of the max and the minimum step to the minimum market. So we get a really good look of how you're aligning to those comparable cities from the ends of your plan. It's important to note that when we go to market, we don't see full job descriptions for every city that you're comparing against. Just like if Corcoran were to respond to the LMC survey, it's a brief summary of a position, and then you would say, our position at Corcoran most similar to that one, that's what we're going to report in for that wage. So it's never we don't have 7 job descriptions up on our screen at one time, largely because there are, as you all know, there's nuances between positions between cities. So it would be unrealistic for us to expect to have a 100% match across various cities, across the board. So it's important to note that we don't have the full job descriptions for every city. So we'll get into some of the details here on our recommendations, and again, I would encourage the council and mayor to jump in with questions as we go through this. The comparable municipalities that were used in the study are listed above. These were brought to council a few months prior, and like I said, all of them did respond to the LMC survey, so we were able to access their data right away. So these were the core 7 cities that were brought in for the study. When we look comparing your current pay plan, so the 2024 pay plan to the 2024 market data, as I said, we're looking at minimums and maximums and comparing that to market. We found that on average, your minimum pay at any given position was 3.58% above market minimum pay. And on the maximum side, when we compare the top step to the maximum market values, on average, you fell just over 3% below market on the maximum side. So really what that tells us when we see that where you have above market minimums and below market maximums is on average your ranges are more narrow than what we see in the market. The market has lower start steps and higher max steps. Not terribly uncommon, and some of that could be likely explained by different comparison groups. Also the labor market has been quite volatile in the last few years. Many cities have conducted case studies just like this in response to the tight labor market, so we do expect some shifting. That also explains why we saw some significant variance per position. So what we're seeing here is averages. Some positions were well above market, some positions were well below. It's also important to note that when we go out to market, there's not always a guarantee that we have an exact match for the positions within the city. So sometimes, just by way of example, you may have a supervisor at this city, and then when we go to market, there's only data available for an individual contributor and a manager. So there may be opportunities for us to blend the data. That can also explain some of the variances that we see when we go to market. Any questions on the current comparison to market of the current 2024 plan to 2024 data?
Any questions?
Okay. So with that, once we have the market data collected, we have the scores assigned for each position, then we go into compensation plan build. So here we're kind of outlining the core components of that compensation plan. So this new model for non-union staff would incorporate a total of 8 steps, including the start and top step, which would be a 7 years to max. So if you had started someone at the step 1, it would take them 7 years in that position to reach the max, assuming satisfactory performance. We are looking also at, in order to do that, we're having a 7% adjustment between grades. So if I compare grade 1, step 1, to grade 2, step 1, there's a 7% increase going kind of down the line, and a 4% increase for each individual step. For comparison, the current plan is roughly a 3.5% increase per step with fewer steps, which explains why it came in a little bit more narrow than the market. When we designed the plan this way, we were able to align your maximum pay, on average 1.92% above, and on the minimum side 2.61% above the market. So on average, not a huge difference between the current and the proposed, but really what the main difference that we saw when we were designing the plan comparing to the original plan was there's significantly less variance to get to those averages. It's a much tighter spread when we look at minimum and maximum compared to market by position. And again, that information has been provided by position level to city leadership as we've gone through and went through design. The next slide, I believe, will be the 2025 plan. So obviously all of the data that we're coming from came from 2024, but given that it is now 2025, we wanted to show you kind of what it would look like if you were to adopt this plan. So I understand that the city has approved a 4% COLA for 2025, so we simply took our 2024 plan that we started with as we built this plan out based on the data that we had in 2024 and applied that 4% COLA to result in this 2025 plan here today. And again, I mentioned this at the start, but we did test this for pay equity compliance to make sure that whatever we're going to recommend isn't going to end up in hot water. We do have to report again in 2027. So assuming you don't have any significant plan changes between now and this should pass pay equity for you. And I also will note that in Appendix D of your report, which I believe is on page 14, we have a detailed table with you that shows where the individual positions are falling on the step and grade table if you'd like to see that. Okay, so obviously when you have a new compensation plan, there are costs associated. Fortunately for the city of Corcoran, when we went to market, there wasn't a significant, you were only roughly 3% off of market, so we didn't anticipate cost greater than 3%. This cost represents the estimated cost of moving all of your full-time positions onto the new proposed scale. So what that means is if, for a way of example, if I'm currently paid $25 an hour today, in order to adopt this plan, I would go to the step that's closest to my pay without going backwards. So if I'm at $25 an hour today, and the next step within the grade that I've been deciding, without going backwards, is $25.25, then I would receive a 25-cent raise to just get onto the new pay plan. And then that 25% raise is annualized for each individual employee. So this is just the cost to get them onto the new salary plan if you were to adopt it as is today for all full-time employees. So for the next steps, we would recommend that the council acknowledge the receipt of this report. And if you were to choose to adopt, we would do that at the next regular council meeting. And if that's the direction that the city council would like to go, we will be partnering with city leadership to make sure that they have tools, resources, and guidance to successfully implement the plan. We have deliverables where you'll, like I mentioned earlier, you'll get the full by position review, all of the market data that we collected, detailed cost analysis. So if there are things like promotions that happen as we're implementing, we can help support with that. And with that, I'll turn it over to questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
I
Yes?
did-
Oh,
yep.
go for it.
Okay. I was just wondering, I didn't see it in there, but is there an appeal process for staff if they feel like they've been inappropriately or they're maybe not accurate with their grade?
Yeah, so that's actually something that I just spoke with city leadership about in our most recent check-in. That's certainly something that we can help support. I believe in the contract that was an optional value after contract service that we provide. So we have templates for those processes. If you don't have one in place today, we can certainly help provide one of those.
Okay.
Yeah, great question.
And then with our retention and trying to retain employees, I was just curious why we only went out 8 years.
Sorry, all for 8 steps?
Yeah, 8 steps.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, great question. So with the 8-step plan, that's actually quite common with what we're seeing with many cities. If you were to extend to, let's say, 12 steps, that also likely means that if you want to maintain your market position of slightly just over 2% above market maximums, you would have to decrease the percentage increase that you get per step. So yes, the number of steps goes up, but then in order to do that, you'd have a smaller increase for each individual step. So in conversations with city leadership, we felt that the 8th step with a 4% increase was both motivating for an employee to receive a 4% increase annually. And then the 7-year plan is fairly consistent with what we're seeing with years to max for many of our clients that we're working with. Great question.
Okay.
If I could speak that for a second, we spent some time trying to figure out how to dial that in best, that benefited the most employees the most. And we tried all the way up to 5% and all the way down to 2.5%. And we arrived at 4% because that seemed to be the sweet spot.
Yeah. And it is worth noting as well that it is one additional step compared to the current plan today.
Okay, then one more question.
Go for it.
Do you happen to know what the total cost is to move staff to the new compensation model?
Yes,
Was that-
if we
I
go
think on
back,
there.
Jay, if
It was
we
in
go
there?
back a couple
I think
slides.
That was
Oh, I
$70,000.
didn't see that.
Sorry,
Oh,
so-
okay, sorry. I thought that was the
That's all right.
cost of us to pay your company for
Oh,
the
no,
plan. Got
no.
it, okay.
Sorry, no, good question.
Thank you.
So This represents, again, just your full-time staff, getting them onto the new pay plan.
Okay.
That would be the adjustment too. Also, this is assuming a January 1 implementation through the city. I understand that they're targeting was February 9th?
February
Good.
15th.
15th, sorry. So this cost would be actually slightly lower by a month and a half of payroll,
Okay.
but this is an annualized estimate.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And when we first discussed this, I anticipated that it would be not to exceed 100,000 is what we had discussed. And so we've stayed underneath that threshold for implementation.
Any other questions? No?
Well, if not, I'd just like to thank the council again for the time, and thank you to the city of Corcoran leadership team. You've been great to work with. So we'll wait to hear from you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Great job.
And Jay, so that will potentially come to us for a decision on?
The plan is to bring it back to council for decision on January 23rd, and then
Okay.
pending the results of that, if it were approved, the goal would be to implement this the second pay period in February, which ends up, I think, is the 4th pay period for the year, February 15th.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
Cool.
Okay, then on to open forum. So if anyone has anything they'd like to speak on that's not on today's agenda, now's the time, and Jay can walk us through.
So by the rules of decorum, I'd like to invite anybody who would like to speak on something not on the agenda to walk forward to the microphone, state your name and your address. You have 5 minutes maximum. Address it to the council on whatever issue you may have. And we received 2 comment cards, Mr. Mayor. And it looks like the first one to come forward would be Miss Karen Lyman-Good.
Sounds good.
Hello, thank you for this opportunity. I live across the street on County Road 116, and I'm just north of the new development, Rush Creek Reserves.
What's your actual address, Miss Lyman-Good, just for the record, please?
8105 County Road 116.
Thank you very much.
And we got off to a good start because Em and I did put a culvert on the property line between David Foy and me, and we agreed to that for the water drainage for the 200 homes over at Rush Creek. But the developer has not followed through on, making a good workable culvert for us. And this is what I wanted to inform you of. We have had 3 meetings with the developer and some city staff, but I wanted the council to know what's going on. It's not being completed, it's unfinished and not adequate. Just for 3 examples, the culvert is too steep, it's not manageable, I can't maintain it, by mowing it. It's rutted. The second one would be they put in a beautiful cement culvert underneath our private drive. But to delineate the culvert, they put rebar on the side of our private gravel road. And the third thing is the water is not really going to Rush Creek as it was intended. It seems like there's a big snafu with different government agencies on this creek shed property, watershed property. And I don't really understand why Corcoran, can't, sort through this mess with all these agencies. And feel like it's just being dumped on me as an individual, on my neighbor David and I, to sort through half a dozen agencies to get the Rush Creek, cleaned up and the water flowing from our property, really from the new development property down to Rush Creek as intended. And just wanted to inform you, I wanted to make sure it got done properly. And I think overall, I would like to ask you, or have you think about this question, is that, are you dedicated to the old-time residents? Or are you letting the new developers and developments kind of run roughshod over us? That's the way it's feeling, because M&I doesn't seem to be motivated to get those issues, improved upon. And I hopefully, as a city council, you consider the longtime residents and the time and work we put into, but also I have a little hobby farm and I've got a beautiful vista for the new development to look over, and I'd like to maintain it, and I feel like it adds to the quality of Corcoran living to have those open spaces, those larger properties maintained. And I came here with my neighbor David, and he's going to give some more facts.
Perfect.
Could I ask you, who is the developer?
M&I.
M&I? Okay, thank you. Do you have anything in writing from them in which they made a promise to?
Right. We don't.
Okay.
Yeah, we had conversations, city staff were there, about 3 conversations. And I guess we were just maybe naive, thinking it was gonna be done.
Thank you.
Anything else? I'll defer to David, he's got a lot of the details.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks, Karen.
Next card that we received, Mr. Mayor, is Mr. David Foy.
David?
Welcome aboard for the new people, right? That's what we all get to vote. Here we are. Thank you for not just volunteering, but taking the time to listen to us. You asked if...
Could you please state your address?
David Foy, 8115, County 116.
Thank you, sir.
And you asked, Mark, if there's something right. Along the way, there's been development criteria. So yes, there are things in writing, but they're buried in the development agreement. This is not a new thing, and just so you're aware of this, and I won't duplicate what Karen said, but this has been an ongoing battle. About maybe 12, 15 years ago, I had paid personally to clean out ditching to the creek because of my flooding issues. I got a cease and desist from the game warden, and I had a fight with Elm Creek Watershed District. And I think the city staff and city people, everybody's afraid of the Elm Creek Watershed District because, as Karen said, we feel like it's being dumped on us to have the Watershed District approve cleaning out a creek. Or it's not even a creek, it's the ditch to the creek. I've shown some staff, I've shown over the years, various council members, we've had outrageous flooding even before M&I got involved, and then complicated by M&I and water control. So we've agreed, Karen and I agreed, to put a ditch, and she meant mowing the ditch as a, I think you said culvert, but she just means having something we can clean and take care of, making sure organic trees and brush don't grow. And the ditch hasn't worked out well. In the last inspection of the ditch with staff and M&I said, yeah, we're gonna have to do something with this. That was 23 and 24, both years. Nothing's been done to improve the ditch / channel. That portion that eventually goes under our common driveway, which is a shared driveway with 5 people, that portion literally is, it was supposed to, we agreed last go on to be side rails to protect my children, my grandchildren, anybody's grandkids, any cars, some way to stop them from falling in the creek. I've shown Mr. Mayor, I've shown some of the other people, that this is what we got, and during heavy rains, it's 4 to 4.5 feet deep, right at that, what we call the bridge. It's really 2 culverts. And as Karen said, there's debris from that point north to the creek. You cannot get the water from A to B to C without it slowing down. Therefore, it floods my land. It goes to the top of the channel into, it previously used to flood Karen's field. It hasn't done it this year or last year, so it's either deep enough and or we have enough rain. So it's important. I just want to reiterate what she said, because I also want to talk about the signage ordinance. But other than that, so it's the quality of the channel, it's the brushing, the channel where it goes north of the driveway, and the staff, nobody wants to talk the Elm Creek watershed. I don't want it dumped on myself or Karen. We agreed to do all of this to facilitate the development, knew that we were in a floodplain, part of the floodplain, so we knew we had to do something and agree with something. What was agreed to, it's hard to implement that. We're laymen, we're not engineers, we're not politicians, we're not bureaucrats. We just don't know where to go except to come to you and say, it hasn't been done, and even at the council a year ago said, well, okay, why don't these people come over and look at it? And they did look at it, and M&I has done nothing. And I do want to know why, I don't know why there's a change for the wetland going from city to state, what benefit or what the pros and cons are. You don't have to do it while I'm standing here. I'd like to know what the pros and cons are, and I can't be here at the next meeting because I'll be in Florida. But I do want to know why are we doing that, and what are the pros and cons for the citizens of Corcoran, especially
Are you talking about the, what's on for 7A?
right, what's coming, what's been deferred from tonight to.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm happy to reach out to you in between now and next meeting, and we can chat about that.
I just want to know why we're doing that and what are the pros and cons to, if we've already had an issue, why are we letting them sell something and gain something when they haven't honored even the things we've already been whining about for years, like 5 or 6 years. With that, I'd like to switch towards the middle stream real quick here.
Sure, and just real quick, I'll make a motion to extend Mr. Foy's time by another 5 minutes.
Oh,
Second.
Fine, yeah.
All
Thank
those
you.
in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So I do have the letter that we all got, if you were within, what, 500 feet or whatever, and it was confusing, and I did talk to Joy a little bit about it, and I'm not sure, fully understand, except you know, we're all in this world that make a living, and I understand M&I needs to make a profit. I'm in the real estate business, and I appreciate what they do. At the same time, I want to know if, in fact, they want to do something to enhance their bottom line. We'd like to enhance our property, right? We'd like to at least come out of here equal to what we had before they started building. Okay, so I'd like to bring up another subject. This has to do with the signage ordinance, and I got a letter saying, I'm a real estate broker, like I said, and I've got signs all over Corcoran, actually all over the metro area. My team, been doing this for 48 years. And I've got 4x8 signs for taxpayers in Corcoran to sell taxpayers land in Corcoran. And I've never paid a nickel. Not just to Corcoran, but to anywhere. Dayton, anywhere in Hennepin County, Wright County, Sherburne County, Anoka County. I've never paid a nickel to market someone's property. So I'm not understanding why this ordinance, which I guess has been latent, it's been around, but just not being implemented. So I got a letter saying basically, I've got to pay $35 a month per panel, and it's 30, 60, 90-day plan, and then we got to start all over again or something. I'm not 100% sure I got it right, but at $35 a panel, I just want to give you some numbers just to see what would that cost long term. So everybody in this room is probably familiar with Hope Community Development. It's the biggest, huge development. By the time it's done, Pastor Brian and I, and he's been the sponsor and developer, it's about a $750 million development. It's all done. It's the start, it's the gateway to the west, right? So that doesn't happen overnight, and if I do what the city wants done, and I know there's some possible changes in this, 6 panels at $35 a month is $210 a month, times 5 years it'd be $12,600. At 7 years, it's $17,640. For the privilege of putting up signs I pay for to help a taxpayer sell their property. If you go to the County Road 19 and 10, I have a property there for sale for Craig Sherber, and it's 72 acres. And I brought with me just a little, and the council can take this and pass it out, just so that you get an idea, well, what do these signs look like? And there should be one for each of you. There's a half a dozen signs. So that's about it. If that takes 2 years to sell, which is not uncommon, I've got statistics to show everybody, well, how long does it take to sell properties in Corcoran that are upper bracket development type properties? I can give those stats in there. But if it takes 2 years, it's a $5,000 hit to myself and Dan Krebs, my business partner, just for the privilege of putting up my signs I pay for. It isn't fair. There's no reason, in my opinion, I've got some ideas for a solution, but I don't think there's any reason. And statistically, here's what it is. If you said, well, and this came right off the MLS, I could document everything I'm saying, but there's 72 properties that are upper development type properties over the years that have been, this is since 2000, for 2020, 72. 11 of the 72 took over a year. Remember, your program, the signage or statute is 30, 60, 90 days. It's not even realistic to selling properties, let alone multiple years. If you go back to say, well, how about the signs and the properties that have taken years to sell? And you guys, you know your area, you guys live around here. You've seen signs, you've seen properties for sale. One was 2,200 plus days, which I think is nuts. But you know, to do a 2,200 days not sell it yet, somebody doesn't know how to price land. But the fact is, if you look at some of these, they've literally been out there a long time. So 30% of all the properties over $150,000 and over 10 acres, so I'm not talking about your neighbor's future home site, I'm talking about development opportunities for people in this community.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, we're at 10 minutes. I just wanted to.
Okay. Well, if you could just.
I'll wrap it up. 30% took over a year to sell. So my solution is really simple. If your property's for sale, you don't charge a nickel. Now, if it's in between listings or something, you give somebody 60, 90 days grace to get it back on the market or have seasonal adjustments or price changes. If a property's for sale, the taxpayer's hiring someone like me to get the job done. And part of getting the job done is to not hide it, to show it. I've shown you pictures of my signs. They're new, they're clean, they're not falling down, they're where they belong. If they're not where they belong, we'll move them. Thank you for your time, and if you have questions, I'm standing here.
Perfect.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, David.
No questions?
Not right now, but I'm sure I'll take a look at this and an ordinance and kind of the whole situation, and I'll probably reach out to you.
Mr. Mayor, I have, David, I've known you a long time and such. We have developers and real estate people that are following the ordinance, and the ordinance has been in place for a long time. What's the difference? Do you have, I'm asking you straight up, do you have the right to put up 10, 12 signs on a property, all of those things? There should not be any regulation on any of these things. What are you saying?
Okay, well, that's a good question. So, at the risk of being obnoxious, we really don't know how long it's going to take to sell something all the time. So that's the first thing.
Yeah.
So the 30, 60, 90.
I don't want to go down that road.
Okay.
I want you to answer my
So
question.
the answer to the question is, the sign ordinance says 1 sign per parcel right now.
Yes, sir.
On the corner of 30 and 116, I have a V sign, which is against the ordinance.
Yep.
And it's a $750,000 development, and advertising from 4 directions. A V sign is the only one that makes sense. That's a crowded corner already. I don't know the other developers, I don't know what they're doing, I don't know.
And working with staff, working with our folks, you can put up signs that are approved, but there's a fee.
And the fee is outrageous for what you're asking for in the timeframes. It's thousands and thousands of dollars.
So make reasonable responses back and talk with them. They'll come to us and we'll look at adjusting the ordinance, Dave.
I did talk to Dwight, and he said only lately the city's had time to implement the.
Yeah, we haven't had staff to do it, and all of these things are complaint-based type things. So my issue, I'm the one that brought up the Caramini Meadow sign. It popped up. We have a sign ordinance. What are we doing? Just freely putting up signs? Have we followed the ordinance? And the response, it sounds like, is no, and you dislike that. The folks up at Hope Church, it's a beautiful, beautiful sign. It's great. But there's a cost of advertising, period, across anything. And how many of these properties, in my mind, I don't think very many of them are sold because of a sign sitting on the thing. I think a lot of it is more on these silly computers in front of us. I think a lot of it is there.
You'd be hard pressed to tell my sellers that, because they not only debate.
I don't want to get into debate, but we have an ordinance to prevent a mess, okay? You don't have a mess, but you still need to follow the ordinances. That's what I feel, okay? And I'm one that wants to limit the amount of government involvement on all of these things, but the sign ordinances in Maple Grove, the sign ordinances in Plymouth are relatively the same as our little 8,500 population sign or town.
I've never paid a nickel. I can name communities, I can name counties.
That sounds as if it's a choice from those communities, but I was part of the sign ordinance production over in Maple Grove when I was spent 20 years over there. I was part of those things and part of those numbers and part of those designs, and there was never an issue. When I came here, the sign ordinance was already in place, and we've got people that are abusing the sign ordinances. So do we sit here and say, you can't do it, but you can, and you don't have to pay, or everybody does the same thing? Yeah,
Well, clearly not everybody does, Dean, because I've never paid in 48 years, and we spend so much money marketing a client's property, and they may or may not sell.
Yep.
So at some point you say, I want to cut my losses, and I'm done, or change the price.
Yep.
And I'm not talking about 2,200 days out there with a sign. I'm not, that's a different broker, it's not me. And I am saying that to implement something now, I get it, if it's been on the books, I can guarantee you, I've checked with my colleagues, and they think it's crazy. And they don't know why there's a charge, and they haven't paid a charge. Now, are they running from Maple Grove and Plymouth? I don't know. I'm comparing what we're doing here to where I've done business for 48 years, and I know there are sign ordinances, you can't have, 25 feet of signage, I get that.
and we have a sign ordinance, and you knew that before you put these
No, I
up?
actually did not know that. Did not.
I'm surprised with somebody that has been here for 48 years.
Nobody sent me anything till Dwight sent me a letter 2 weeks
But
ago.
I'm
Which we don't
surprised.
need, we don't need to
Okay.
debate that, but I think, David, like I said,
Okay.
I'll take a look into this and follow up with you.
I just think it ought to be a realistic expense. If somebody needs to inspect it and it costs me $25, $35 for some guy to look at the sign and walk away, call me when it's sold, I'll take it down. In between, it's my responsibility to make it look good, be accurate, and not be faded, not falling over. And if that's happening, I should get it cut down and thrown in the trash. I don't have a problem with that. So you want junk out there? I don't want junk out there.
Right.
And there are signs out there that I agree with the ordinance. Some of them are like 8 or 10 years old, and they're not even realistic. They're not even for sale anymore.
Yeah, and part of it is we have to be careful because we can't get into dictating what the content of the signs are as a city legally.
But the Board of Realtors does a good job of that. It's gotta be accurate. I mean, we can't, you gotta be accurate on a sign. Any more questions?
We're good for now.
Like you said, it's not a debate, it's more of a, I promise Jay I'd be civil, right? Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Can I ask staff to prepare an update on the earlier comments regarding the Rush Creek watershed debate and what the future steps could look like. We've had a number of conversations with other developers not completing things that they promised they would do. I'd want to treat this in a similar fashion, but I want to understand what they're actually required to do, what we have escrow to fund, and the mechanisms available to us.
Understood. So to clarify, we have item 7A, and we'll be talking about that later on the agenda. But you'd like to get an update regarding the watershed for Rush Creek Reserve, specifically about that item or the M&I relationship?
Specifically about the issues raised by
Okay.
Karen. And
Understood. Thank you.
Great. Okay. And then with that, we will move on to consent agenda, which consists of items, it gets a little complicated because we removed one and added one. 6A through Q and S through U. Does anyone want to pull anything?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I could pull D and E, please.
D and E. Okay, anything else?
I would like to pull F and J, please.
F and J. Which I think I have that one. Okay, anything else?
And 6T, which would be the last one. I don't know which letter it is now.
Do you know what the item is?
Yeah, it stays the same.
Part-time
Still
accounts
60.
payable.
Okay,
It's
yes,
still
T.
60.
T, correct.
Okay, give me 1 second here. I think I had one of the ones earlier, so that covers that. Anything from you, Mark?
I would abstain from 6L, but I don't think I need to ask for that to be pulled.
We can pull it, and that way we can just do an individual vote on it, and you can abstain.
Okay.
Perfect. So I will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items. Whew.
I
You
can do
guys.
it. I move to approve consent agenda items A through C,
Yep,
G through I,
yep.
K,
Yep.
M through S.
And you,
And you.
Oh, sorry, I don't have you on mine. And you.
Perfect.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye. Okay, first one, Dean, you had D?
Yeah, by
Wanted to
Jessica's
acknowledge it.
here, I wanted to thank her. I know there was a number of people involved on especially the holiday toy and food drive, and such. Thank you very much.
It takes a team.
It was fantastic.
I'm
No,
excited
it was a
for
great
the
job.
next year. Attached to that is the community event schedule and such. Thank you for being part of that. And again, the team, staff, everybody that's involved, thank you, everybody, for doing those things. And then I'm glad Jeremy did what he did and pulled what he pulled. So I appreciate that. And I just wanted to make sure it went off. I know we talked about it last meeting too, as far as the toy and food drive and such and everything that happened. So appreciate all of that involvement.
Yeah, absolutely, well said. Thanks for holding that. I'll entertain a motion to approve consent agenda item 6D.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, 6E. Dean, that was also you.
Yep, same thing. The community event schedule is great and such. It's nice to have it. It's nice to have it included in on much of our budgets and those kind of things. So I appreciate it very much.
Well said again. I'll entertain a motion to approve consent agenda item 6E.
So moved.
Second.
You got it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then F, Jeremy.
So I pulled this one. I had two suggestions for council to consider before we proceed with this program. The first one, the way that the model was conceived by the Planning Commission would allow participants to elect to fund certain amenities and parks. Portions of those, depending upon the amenity, would be matched by city funds. that could create a little bit of an issue depending on how many applications we get for it in a certain year. Do we have allocated funding to support the city side of that commitment? So we might want to think a little bit more carefully about how we would fund those specific things and how we would budget for that, whether we can do park dedication funding for everything, whether there's some fixed amount we allocate toward that in a given year, and then beyond that level, we have a formal policy that says we're going to defer it until next year or until council allocates funds for it. The second issue that I'd like to consider is allowing people to donate more than the funding required just to create the amenity, to create an endowment to support those amenities over time. So as a person passes away, their family wants to honor that person, rather than putting in $2,000 for a bike rack that has a plaque on it, maybe they put in $5,000 to put in the bike rack, and it goes into an endowment fund so that when that bike rack or other amenities in the city begin to deteriorate, there's already funding available to replace and repair or refinish those items without having to have someone else either reach out to that same family and wonder if they want to continue with the program or find a new sponsor for that item. So that could be an expansion of that system that could enable us to get the maintenance of some of those amenities funded by donations long-term rather than by the city on a replacement basis.
Gotcha. Yeah,
And I wasn't-
I was gonna ask you to,
There
yep.
wasn't any room on the table, so. Okay, I love both questions. I'm gonna start with the second one though. For the endowment idea, I think it's a good idea. I'm not familiar enough with it to that extent, like beyond a park enhancement program, but I could look into it. I feel that would probably be separate from the park enhancement program just because it is more like a sponsorship or an ongoing donation. I do have some contacts though, I'm part of the Minnesota Recreation and Park Foundation. So I know that we do something similar, so I can talk to the people that I know there.
Okay.
And get more information on that. But I do feel that would probably be separate, but I think it could be an alternative policy as well.
Meaning like something, we could, in theory, pass this and then pass something like that
Yeah.
later, either amending it to this or a separate side policy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, kind of a separate policy. I don't even know that it would necessarily be supplemental to this, but kind of in tandem almost.
Gotcha.
And then as far as the funding split cost, if I were gonna present a vision to you, it would be more than likely what the policy covers is the situation where we're putting in these benches at like City Park, for instance, or these bike racks at City Park. So they're planned amenities, so they would be within the budgeted project plan. So as part of that, we would be saving money then on the front end with the donation. Part of the issue was once you get into things like shipping and concrete pads and such, the cost of the amenity goes from what was originally a $1,200 bike rack to now almost $3,000 with everything said and done. So I would envision that with going along project budgets, I think we would be okay because it would be part of the budget already. We'd be saving money in that fashion. Does that help answer?
Versus cases where maybe there's a trail, and in 5 years, when the trail's already built, somebody wants to add something to that
Correct.
trail.
And we have that as an option. However, it is a special circumstance where people can come forward to either Parks and Trails or Council, present an alternative option on a location, and then it would have to go through the commission and the council, and at that point, we would define what the funding source would be.
Okay.
If I could add one other comment, I had the benefit of talking to Councilmember Nichols about this a little bit, and the community that I came from did have an endowment, and we talked about some of the benefits, but also some of the potential pitfalls, and just as you're thinking about it, I just wanted to present that. The thing that I raised concern about is oftentimes when we're passionate about something and we give money, then we also are passionate about the decision-making, about how that money's spent, and it doesn't always align with the priorities that we have within a certain project. And it created a lot of conflict. And so we had a service organization that routinely donated out of their gambling funds into an endowment. And really they were trying to clear the deck and get the money off of their books. And they gave it to the city, but then they came back and they wanted to tell the city, okay, now I want you to do this project. And it didn't align with the city's plans for that park. And so it created a political problem. And so that's just something as we develop a policy for this, that we need to ensure that it doesn't come with all the strings attached. Because there's other programs that really clearly give an avenue to achieve specific objectives. And so in an endowment, would be, hey, it can be open, but people to understand that when they give, if they were to give to something like that it doesn't mean in perpetuity they get to decide how those dollars get spent.
And maybe it's something like, spelling that out on the donation if they are comfortable with it being used at the city's discretion, or maybe or creating a separate endowment fund that has maybe a more like limited, still pretty broad, but maybe more limited pool of things that it could go to, that we could come up with a list of items, and so they know that it'll go towards one of those many items. Just a thought.
Similar, actually, in the packet that just got printed tonight for the Parks and Trail, we're gonna be talking about fundraising opportunities, as part of that with See My Legacy getting approved during the November meeting. You have the opportunity to make fundraising campaigns for things like splash pads, playgrounds, the building, things of that nature. So, I mean, that's headed in the right direction. You're still looking, I think, for that umbrella of like these funds can be used for park projects. Yeah. So we can kind of explore all of those avenues and give more detail on that, but I would say it still is kind of separate from this policy.
Gotcha. Yeah. Any other questions for JCB? I would recommend then that we, and I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda item 6E, and then we look into some of those additional.
6F.
Thank you, 6F. Then we look into some of those additional things and can look at adding a in tandem policy or adjusting this one down the road if need be.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
On to, let's see here, Jeremy, your next one was J, that's the one I had too, so go ahead.
Just wanted to recognize all the donors and the police officers who participated.
Can we pull that up?
Sorry, what's that?
I just wanted him to pull it up, so,
Try to make it visible.
yeah, so, as you're explaining, continue.
So the Shop with the Cop program gathered considerable donations this year. Several local families were invited to shop with police officers and go back to the Rogers Community Center for celebrations. They were able to buy toys and Christmas presents for their family members. Just a really great event, and I wanted to recognize all the folks who were involved in making it happen, from the donors to the officers themselves, and make sure people were aware of this excellent program within our community.
Yeah, well said, and thank you to everyone who donated, and it's fantastic. And it's in there in more detail, there's a couple charts, too, of breakdowns of donations, so, take a look if you're interested, but we really appreciate everyone who donated and helped make these, the great events that they are.
And it's pretty incredible when you see the looks on the cops' faces and the kids' faces when you're there. I mean, it's pretty impressive when you look at the numbers there, but when you can see it in person, if timing ever allows, I would encourage any of you to visit while it's happening, because
It's almost always been during our meetings,
Yep.
but if we can get it on a different day, I'll 100% be there. Maybe we can make a field trip.
Thanks for your support on it.
I'll make a motion to approve 6J.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then the last pulled item, no. Second to last pulled item. Michelle, you had,
Nope, there was 6L.
okay, I just did it out of order, yeah. So let's do Mark's first, which was 6L, Resolution 2020-505, supporting Mark Lanterman for the Minnesota Cybersecurity Task Force. And I believe, Mark, you just wanted to abstain
Yes.
from this. Does that council have any questions on what that is? It's a task force that Mark was recommended for, and I've also sent him a letter recommending, and I thought we could get a resolution from council so we could send it with that application. It's obviously right up Mark's alley for what he does, and I think he'd be a great candidate for that. So I think hopefully this helps your application, and keep us posted on that.
If I could clarify something just for the audience, the task force does really important work in the state of Minnesota, and they have representatives from different sectors of society. So there's technical experts, there's education, so Councilmember Lanterman will be the municipal representative, but we also have the benefit that he's also a technical expert.
Yep, and I believe there's just one municipal representative on that task force.
That is correct, for the state.
So, it'd be, I think, great for you and great for the task force and good connection for us to have, so you can let us know what the latest is on all that, so.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. So I will go ahead and make a motion to approve consent agenda item 6L.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Abstain? Mark. So 4-0-1.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Very cool.
I think you'd be great on it. And then, Michelle, you pulled T.
T. Yeah, thank you, Mayor.
Go right ahead.
I just have a question about, is this a temporary position, or is it going to be a permanent part-time position? And was it part of our org chart that we did last year?
So to answer those questions, it was not part of the org chart.
Okay.
There was an anticipation that we would be able to, with the organization that was proposed, meet the demand that we had. We discovered early fall, late summer, that we did not have the capacity to deal with the volume of both our escrow work, payroll, and the tremendous volume with all the projects that we have going on through accounts payable. And so for the window of time, council approved us using ABDO in order to meet that shortfall. And we just don't have the capacity as a single accountant, so this would be a long-term part-time position. But there isn't enough work to justify a full-time position, and we don't want to continue to pay the premium of our ABDO consultant, as well as we want to have the benefit of having someone who is on-site to work with our different departments in order to continue to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of our accounts payable. So just with we had 346 building permits, which is almost 100 more than last year. And so that means the volume of what we have going through finance is 100 houses more than it was last year. And so we just didn't anticipate that the workload was going to be as much it is. So the intent is for this to be a full-time, sorry, not a full-time, a permanent part-time position. And what this will give us the benefit long-term is as we hit different windows, for example, during elections, if we're able to flex them, that helps us with some other added capacity. So we're trying to be creative, like how can we, if we don't have the accounts payable work, we have lots of other work that they could do.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, how about the rest of council?
So 346 permits was the total for 2024,
Correct.
and it was like 230 the year before, if I remember right?
Yeah, I think something like that, yeah, so yeah, and specifically for new construction, so there is like over 1,000 permits issued.
With water heaters.
Yeah, I think it was 1,115, just off the top of my head.
Off the top.
Thank you.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve 6T.
perfect. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All righty. We are done with consent, and we'll move on to planning, which is item 7. We have a public hearing for the Rush Creek Reserve Wetland Bank easement vacation. So let's do the open, or the public hearing first here. And I will,
Mr. Mayor, actually, so the applicant requested that the item be pulled from tonight's agenda.
Yes.
So it's going to be tabled, so we actually would not open the public hearing, we need to table it, continue it to February 15th, is the date that was.
oh, okay, I got
No?
conflict.
What was the date that was identified?
Just, if I may,
Please.
procedurally, yeah,
Okay.
procedurally, what we would want to do is open the public hearing and then adjourn it to a date certain that
Got
we
it.
just announced, a location and date, and then it eliminates the need for additional notice.
Anyway, adjourn it by motion.
What's that?
Adjourn it by motion, or can I do that?
You can do it by motion.
Okay.
Just you make a motion to adjourn to date certain at location certain. and-
Which would be the date that the applicant wanted,
February 15th.
February 13th. Okay, so I will go ahead and open the public hearing. And with that, I will make a motion to table the public hearing to February 13th meeting at City Hall.
I'll second.
All, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item 8, cannabis ordinance update, which is brought back from a previous meeting.
I do not have a presentation. The direction was to reduce reduce the low potency registrations from 2 to 1, and that change was made and what is now in front of you tonight for approval.
Okay. Any questions for Natalie or staff in general on it? We kind of discussed it quite a bit. There's the change that was made that Natalie just highlighted.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Is there a specific distance and feet that it has to be away from residential properties too?
No, so it's from, I want to say churches, but it's not actually churches, it's schools and here, let me pull.
Daycares.
Schools, daycares, and then parks with services for children.
Okay.
So amended, so like a playground.
And
Could-
state licensed facilities.
Could we include
Yes.
something like that, or is
I
that
don't, I
something
think
that you
they
wouldn't
gave a
do?
list of like what you can do.
Is that why it's zoned in specific areas?
Mhm.
Because it's,
Yeah, that's what is allowed per state statute. We can be more lenient, we can't be more strict.
okay,
Understanding.
okay, thank you.
The intent, I think, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
The state gives us a very narrow range of things that we have control over. And within that range, we've tried to be as conservative and restrictive as possible. We don't feel, according to our attorney, there's other things that we can adopt to make it more restrictive than this draft would allow us to do, while still staying within the bounds that the state has allowed for us.
And I would also add, it doesn't seem like, for what it's worth, licenses are gonna be running out the door here real quick. The head of the agency just resigned, so now they're on their third. Because the first one lasted 1 day, this one was interim for however long. Now she resigned and now they're looking for or have their third. So,
It's almost like the program's broken.
yeah, it's almost like they did it completely backwards and don't really know what they're doing, but at some point they will come out, I'm sure, but I think we have a little time, so just FYI. But with that, if there's no other questions or discussion, I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2024-541.
2025.
Thank you. Is it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We got a new number.
Would it still be 541?
Yes.
Okay. Amending Chapter 119 and Title 10 of the City Code as it relates to the cannabis business and Resolution 2025-04 with the findings of fact.
Did you
I'll
do
make that
542 as well? Mr. Mayor?
Nope, I think I'll do that separately,
Okay, understood.
just in case.
So moved.
Move.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I had originally been heels dug deep related to the federal side of this stuff. It was for a personal reason related to government clearance and such for myself. I vetted out all of that information. I'm going to vote in favor of this, but still have reservations of it being a still federally regulated or a federal law that us, the city or the state and such are going against, so just FYI.
Yeah, if I were in the state senate, I wouldn't have voted for what they did.
Yeah,
But from this seat, I'm gonna vote yes on this.
we need to
Makes
put something in
Think I'm on the
place
same
that prevents us up front. That's what I feel, so thanks for listening.
Of course. Anything else?
That's correct.
Okay. Then with that, do we have a motion and a second, I believe?
Yep.
Perfect. And that was discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Perfect, 5-0. And then I will make a motion to approve summary ordinance 2025-542 for publication.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. Thank you. And then we are on to the last major item, new business. We have two items, 9A and 9B, and I think let's dive right into 9A, which is choosing acting mayor for 2025. Now that Councilor Bodema has left us, and he had been serving in that role in my absence for at least the last 4 years or so, and maybe a little bit before that and with the prior mayor. I don't think there's a bad choice on the council. I think any of you are capable of doing it in my absence of running the meeting. But I would like to nominate Councilor Nichols based on seniority, and I had a brief conversation with you if you were interested, and you had said yes. So if that's still the case, I'd like to nominate you, and if council's on board with that, I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to bring back any necessary resolutions at the next meeting to appoint Councilor Nichols as acting mayor in my absence for 2025.
I'm willing to serve. Thank you.
Got a motion? Did I make the motion? Who made the motion?
I thought you made it.
I'll make it.
Motion. I'll second it.
Seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Perfect. And then 9B, rules of decorum. Does anyone have any feedback on these? That generally looked pretty good to me. It's always something too where if we realized a gap in it, we could amend these. But I think that's a pretty good, a lot of it's stuff that we've been doing in practice before.
Yeah.
The only thing that I brought up, Mr. Mayor, is it doesn't include practices for how to provide online comment. And because of some of the experiences that we had, council made the decision to no longer allow that. And so I would ask that you direct staff to remove the portions that apply to online comments, so just to be consistent, so that we're not confusing.
Remove it, so continuing to not allow.
Remove it from the language of decorum, not allowed to make online comments.
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Second.
I have an additional suggestion.
Okay, discussion.
So we've had some cases where discussion between council and public comment and council has gotten contentious. So I feel it would be valuable to add a general courtesy and respect requirement, that the expectation is that anybody who's in this chamber is addressing anybody else in this chamber in courteous professional terms. And violation of those norms would be something that the presiding officer would be expected to correct.
Okay. I'm fine with that. John, anything that stands out on that?
No issue with that.
Okay. Council, how do you?
Second,
Well,
with that amendment.
So we have a motion and
Yeah.
a second, but I'll take that as a friendly if that's okay with you.
Sure.
And then who seconded? Did you take that as a friendly as well?
Yes, sir.
So Jay, do you have an understanding of the motion?
I'll come back and listen to the,
Okay, it's basically
Yeah.
making the changes you recommended, removing those items, and Jeremy's suggestion.
so I would presume that that would fall under the general rule guidance, because then there's another category for open forum. And I just clarifying, that's where you
Yeah, I think
envision it
general.
going
Yeah, I
under
think
the
so.
general rule. Okay.
Perfect. So we have that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye? No? Vote.
No, it's too subjective.
Okay. So was that 4-1? To be clear, I want to make sure I got everyone's vote.
So before we go forward, Mr. Mayor, just reading it through, I do think there's a paragraph that captures the spirit of what Councilmember Nichols was just stating.
And that wasn't to approve this, it was to make changes.
So, but it doesn't put
doesn't
the
speak to the
same thing
public.
onto the public.
Right.
So that's what we're wanting to do, is to make sure that the public courtesy is captured in the spirit of
Thanks,
that.
guys.
Understood. Thank you for clarifying.
So we've made that change with the 4-1 vote there. Mark, do you have any suggested language that, or changes that you'd like to see?
No.
Okay. Sounds good. Then I will entertain a motion to approve the rules of decorum as amended by the previous motion.
Second.
Didn't we already
I thought we did all of
No,
that.
we did that to make the changes to it, not to approve it.
Oh,
Oh, sorry, okay. I misunderstood.
So Dean,
What are the changes, though?
the changes were removing the language regarding online comments.
So it would be this section right here, all persons attending through electronic means, and it will instead change to say, persons attending via electronic means are not allowed to make comment.
Which has been in practice for a while.
And then there's a secondary statement right here that's also electronic in the next paragraph.
That's on top of the next paragraph.
And so with this portion that says proper decorum is expected at all times, and speakers are asked to treat everyone with respect, there's been a request to add similar language as was applied roughly here, courtesy, no rude and derogatory remarks, no abusive comments or statements. So we'll just add that to speakers, and not just speakers, but attendees as well to the audience. That's what I'd understood the direction to be.
Yes, that is correct, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, and if anyone else? No? Okay, then I will entertain a motion to approve the rules of decorum as amended. And if Dean, did you want to make that motion? Perfect. Do we have a second?
Well, second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
all right.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
4-1. Thank you very much. And with that, we are just about done. Council reports, does anyone have anything they'd like to share? Start of the year? Probably not a ton yet, but
I will have to miss the next meeting. I'll be doing a little bit of business travel, but I will attend both of the strategic planning sessions.
okay, sounds good. Jay you and I can go over to make sure there's nothing, no, I mean,
Yeah,
worst
what's
case,
coming
we
up
have
for the
4/5.
23rd, I don't think there's
yeah.
any requirement of a majority.
Sounds good. Thanks for letting us know. Anyone else?
If I could,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to introduce our new utility superintendent, Joe Peavy, has been joining us this evening. He is keeping a good eye on our water treatment facility. He joins us from Maple Grove, where he has 19 years' experience in the field, doing similar things, but now he's joined us and he's taking us into the
Awesome.
21st century.
Welcome
So
aboard.
I would encourage you all to connect with Joe.
I'd love to
as it
get a tour
continues to
once
develop and
things
get a
are
tour.
wrapped up there. I'd love it.
And yeah, lots of cool things happening out there. If you've never been in a water treatment facility, it's cutting edge technology. And as you know, the team continues to find solutions that are, because of their timeliness, are keeping our costs down. And because of our lower costs, we're then able to do some things that we otherwise wouldn't be able to do. So we're able to do more because of the good stewardship that we have, and we expect that to continue with Joe. So glad to have him aboard.
Thanks for coming
Can we do a
tonight.
council meeting there at some point?
What's that?
There isn't really a good place
Not
to
a big
meet.
enough room.
And once it gets humming, it's not a real quiet space.
No, I would imagine not.
And it's hard to focus when you're wearing your goggles and your helmet.
And the
in order to
floaty
be
wings
safe.
If
and
you got the
stuff on
guts,
our
maybe we
arms
could
and
do
you're
one from
bobbing in them.
the, in the bowl of the,
Oh, there you go.
no way I'm going up there ever. Couldn't pay me enough. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, one more
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
When do we talk about representatives to the planning and parks and charter commission and stuff? Or
So are we,
did we already talk about that not continuing, but we still kind of are? I'm just asking about that.
So the way that I had understood it, and we can revisit it, is that we had decided that the commissioners can come if they want.
Right.
And council members were really kind of going, if they wanted, and each of you had communicated the ones that you were gravitating towards. If we wanted to do assignments and clarify it that way, we can bring that back to you on the 23rd.
okay.
And
Just asking if there's we've got 2 new people up here, is there interest in a planning representative or a parks representative different than you and me?
And
I'm
also,
just
you know,
asking.
now Councilmember Lanterman on the cyber task force, he's representing the city.
Right.
And there might be other similar opportunities outside of what has been our historic norms.
I'm
in
still
which
waiting
we're
to hear
able
about
to-
in that council group that Councilor Bottom was on previously.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
okay.
but
Just wanted to bring it up.
it's certainly something that anyone, we could all go, because it's noticed, we could all go to a planning commission or a Parks and Trails meeting if we wanted to, or you could watch it online after, or that's typically what I do when I can't make it, is watch it on YouTube just to hear all the discussion. And also when Granicus is up to it, it'll be probably even easier with.
If you'd like us to do formal assignments, we could come back on the 23rd. But my last understanding from our last discussion was that wasn't what we were doing. So that's why it wasn't on the agenda.
Just bringing it up. Thank you.
Good.
And as we are talking about assignments, would ask, I don't believe we received any applications for the watershed commissioner or deputy commissioner.
Okay.
And that's really a critical fill for us. As some of the folks in the audience stated tonight, they've got some big thoughts and feelings. And currently, we have a representative there that has been on there for a long time, but he's also on our Parks and Trails Commission. And it's a big ask of that resident. And so we really need someone on the watershed.
If you know anyone, or can post it out anywhere to get people to at least look at it, spread the word, same to anyone in the audience or on staff. We really do need those positions, so spread it, yell it from the rooftops as much as we can, and hopefully we'll get someone, 2 people at least, to apply here soon.
And if anyone's curious to learn more, they can certainly connect them with me, and I can give them an understanding of what to expect. And you know, I suspect there's, you know, it sounds technical in nature, but if you don't need to be technical, you know, I would just add, you know, sometimes I get the feedback that it's technical. You just need to ask good questions and care about the community, and we can support that individual. So it's not, you don't need to be technical to represent that. You just have to have passion for local government and our community. So if that's a barrier, I can please have them talk to me, and I can help them give confidence in that process.
There is a link on the website for to the application. It has your info on there as well too. And I put a note in the front page article of the upcoming newsletter that highlighted that we really need these positions, so please apply if you know anyone. So hopefully it'll happen soon. All right, anything else? Council schedule's in there.
Reminder, Monday, we're having a strategic planning session in here. We will be coming out with asking what you'd like to eat. So
We've done
watch
Oak
your
Eatery
inboxes,
in the
and if we
past.
don't hear from you, I'll
Very
text
good.
you so that we can get that order in. But that's the plan. Thank you for coming to work with us on Monday, and we will feed you.
Is there any pre-work that you would like us to pay attention to?
So what I can do is tomorrow we'll send out what we did last year, and I just ask you to review as background what we have done as far as a deliverable. That's been a framework. I don't intend to dramatically change the framework, but we're probably gonna start a little bit further back just to see if there's anything that maybe we might want to add or drop based on what we've had before. So we're actually gonna start with a blank slate, and then we'll compare it to what we had after we've done some blank slate work.
Perfect. Sounds good. Anything else? With that, I'd like to offer up to Councilor Friedrich the honors of making a motion to adjourn our first meeting.
I'd love
First meeting of the
to.
year. All right, go right ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.